Okay, so we are going to get into Parshas Yitro and or Jethro, if you're going to use the English version of it, and we're going to talk about Yitro, uh, his participation, what's going on. But I want to first, before we get into the discussion of any of the text, is to sort of take a satellite view of this man, who he was, where did he come from, and some of the elements that made up this great individual. Now, we can get into later on whether Yitro was a convert or was he a Noahide. There's debate in the text, the Jewish literature, that talk about whether he was a convert or not. And I honestly don't know. I just know that he's a pivotal point in the Exodus story that ties the nations to the text. And we're going to see how it does it. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Now, in the beginning, I want to read just a portion of Rabbi Avraham ben Yaakov's commentary on Yisro. And I would like to just say this, and then that's kind of give an opening to this class. He says it is fitting that the parasha tells of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, name Yitro. Moses' father-in-law, convert, is what Rabbi Avraham ben Yaakov says. Indeed, all those who witnessed giving the Torah were converts. Thus, as noted in the commentary of Parashat Shemos, the covenant at Sinai was accompanied by three components of conversion: circumcision, ritual immersion in waters, the mikvah, burnt offerings. For before God, there were all converts, gerim, and dwellers in the land and on earth that is not ours, but God's. We're all here only by the grace of God, utterly dependent upon his kindness. Now, I would be interested later on in the class to really ask Rabbi Avner what his approach and whether he feels that Yithro is a convert or Noahide, and that would really be something I'd like to talk about. Uh, in this text, we are reminded that Yitro is not a monolithic character. As a matter of fact, if you go to human literature, you're going to find that he is mentioned several times in Jewish text by different names. He goes by Reuel, Hobab, as described in the text of Exodus 2:16, 3:1, 18:1. He was a priest of Midian. Now, his Midianite lineage is interesting. He is born as a man connected to Abraham. Most people just don't think about it. They think he's just some lonely, vicious pagan man living in the desert of Midian. And in reality, he was a fairly upstanding man of great stature, according to Midrashic sources, even may have been an advisor to Pharaoh, along with Job. Now, with this being said, we understand that if he is a much broader subject matter than just this one instance in text, we also have to understand that of the Torah, written for the Jewish people, for the nation, but written about the Jewish people, we have Yitro come from Midian and plopped right down in the middle of the story, right at the giving of the Torah. So was Yitro a descendant of Abraham? Yes, he was a descendant of Abraham through Keturah, according to the sages. Now, his names entitled, I mentioned, was Reuel, Yitro, Hobab, and his family name ends up traveling, or the what do you call it? The Kenite people ended up moving with Israel through the wilderness into the land. Later, the Kenites actually lived amongst the Israelite people. They remained allies and was treated with great respect with King David and King Saul, even actually warned in 1 Samuel not to harm the Kenites. These were considered I would think, Gerim or B'nai Noach that lived in Israel at the time. Where they're at today, I really couldn't tell you. Um, they had actually attached themselves to Israel. So, did they attach themselves to Israel because Yitro was the Noahide of Noahides, or was he a convert? That is for history to tell, and maybe someone much wiser than I to be able to break down. So the question was, is did he fully convert? And the text seems to be fairly overwhelming that he did convert. Either way, the Torah presents Yitro as a, a righteous Gentile, a truth seeker, and obviously a key advisor to Moses. Now, one of the things that we have to consider who Moses was, and the fact that Moses went to Midian when he left Egypt, when he was basically what do you call it, not a refugee, but a someone on the lam. I can't remember the term for it, but someone who's concerned about his life because he had murdered or killed an Egyptian man. He goes to Midian. Who is in Midian? But he meets Yitro. Yitro was a man that he knew about, seemingly he understood and would ally himself with. I doubt Moses would have wandered in the desert to find some pagan who was sacrificing his children on altars to some unknown god. Moses connected with the man early, and obviously so because he ended up marrying his daughter. I don't believe that Moses would have married his beautiful wife, Yithro's daughter, if she would have been from horrible seed. Does that make sense? We get a picture here that she obviously was also a very righteous person, and we see this later on pretty pretty straightforwardly. Now, I would like to take a moment to tie Yitro in with the Sheva Mitzvot and show you what type of righteous non-Jew he was. Um, he let me pull down. I've got some more notes here I want to get to. He, as I said before, was a descendant of Abraham through Keturah. He was a priest in Midian, not probably too unlike many priests of the time. That is, people of high moral standard, or maybe even connections to spirituality and ancient ideas and understanding. We have Melchizedek, who was a priest, but he was a priest according to Noahide tradition. He was a priest and believed in one God and taught these principles to the nations. But it seems to me pretty evident from the text and research that I've done that Yitro already was pretty much a Noahide by his actions. And he discovered something profound, and that was through a profound event, he witnessed the hand of the one true God and became convinced that there is only one true God, one true creator of the universe. Now, what his position before on many gods, maybe being the expert of all types of theology and understanding and spirituality, but at some point he realized who the one true God was. So let's look at some of the connections that Yitro has to the Sheva Mitzvot. Avodah Zarah, the rejection of idolatry. Clearly, he rejects his idolatry. He says in Exodus 18, verse 11, now I know that Hashem is greater than all gods. Yitro had worshiped from every ideological aspect up to this point, but he sees something very profound about the creator of the universe. This makes his statement very unparalleled. Pharaoh never says this. Amalek never says this. Balaam never says this. Yitro arrives at this exclusive monotheism through his own experience. And I would say that many of us in the Noahide world have done the very same thing. We've been raised believing that a man is God in flesh. We've been told that our entire life, and we just believed it because that's what it said. But at some point, we came to this empirical evidence found in the Torah that opened our eyes and helped us to understand that there can only be one creator of the universe. Next is this idea of Birkat Hashem, honoring the name of God, the Noahide law not to blaspheme and to obligation to honor God. It says in Exodus 18:10, Yitro fulfilled this by saying, "Blessed is Hashem who saved you from Egypt." Pretty obvious. This is the first blessing of Hashem spoken by a non-Jew in the Torah. How profound is that? The Midrash emphasizes he blessed God publicly in front of Israel without coercion. And I realize that as B'nai Noach and Rabbi Avner would support this idea that B'nai Noach, people of the nations who declare the oneness of Hashem and to take upon themselves the yoke of the Sheva Mitzvot from the Torah, does not need to go to a Beis Din to be officially recognized as a Ben or Bat Noach, a man or woman of the descendant of Noah. They simply just need to declare God publicly. And this idea that Yitro did it not only publicly, but in front of Israel without any coercion at all, is a positive sanctification of God. Next is this idea of respecting human life. Yitro, this idea of the prohibition of murder. Yitro's fulfillment, now watch this, protects his daughter from harm. Exodus 2:17 through 20. Moses is welcomed as a fugitive in his home. This shows that Yitro was a solid, good man who believed in the respect of human life. Next, he creates family stability rather than violence. His daughters were not negative or violent people. More importantly, his judicial system prevents bloodshed by resolving disputes early. He likes the idea, and we see in this text from this week's Torah portion, when Yitro shows up and meets Moses, and after the introduction, the next day he sees Moses with these lines of people coming to speak to him. Some were there for civil matters, some were there for higher levels of understanding of the Torah. Nevertheless, Yitro sees this and realizes there are going to be some people who are not going to be serviced properly because Moses doesn't have time to meet everybody. They were there from daylight to dark every day. Can you imagine the responsibility of being able to teach all those people the ways of Hashem? So this idea is that Yitro immediately sees a compassion toward the Israelite people to say, Moses, this can't be done this way. There are some people who are going to walk away not feeling as if their concerns are as important as the concerns of others. Next, this idea of sexual morality, this prohibition of sexual immorality. Yitzro's fulfillment of this is found. The Torah portrays a stable household, modest daughters who draw water, and lawful marriage to Moshe. There's no hint of abuse, exploitation, or sexual rituals that took place within that home. I doubt that Moses would have had anything to do with Yitro if he did those things. Next, theft. Noahide law, prohibition of the prohibition. I'm sorry, the prohibit. I'm sorry. Why does that happen? That's crazy. Prohibiting stealing. Yitro insists on fair leadership. This is what I was saying earlier. Exodus 18, verse 18 through 21. He says, you will surely wear yourself out. Select capable men who fear God, men of truth, who hate gain. This whole idea of fair leadership is this idea that we don't want to steal from people's time. Moses, and this whole idea of theft, for example, we get that theft is more than just taking somebody's property. Also, theft of time, theft of a person's moral character, theft of someone's of reputation. All of those are important. And here, Yitro is saying it's not fair. You're going to wear yourself out. These people are going to end up stealing from you life that you need. You need your health and life and welfare. And the next thing, how about this? That that Yitro was encouraging Moshe to have fair courts for the very purpose that their time is important too. The people's time is important. To sit and stand all day waiting to be heard from the leader of the nation, well, this is called fairness. So, this idea of hating gain, this goes beyond theft. It demands integrity, transparency, and justice without bribery. Now, the last is ever min chai, and no cruelty to animals, prohibition of eating a limb of a living animal. While not explicit, obviously, Yitro is a shepherd. Exodus, the 3rd chapter, talks about him being a shepherd. Shepherds require patience and care. Moses is chosen partly because of his compassion for animals, according to the Midrash. Moses chooses Yitro because of this. Yitro raises Moses in a household where compassion is cultivated and power is tempered. Last but not least, we're going to hit this one, the courts, the Nim. We see it very clearly. He establishes courts. Yitro becomes, in some way, a resident expert in courts, possibly because he was a judge in many aspects in Midian as a priest. Yitro's fulfillment of this is found in 18th chapter, verse 21 through 22. It says, "You shall provide from all the people capable men. They shall judge the people at all times." So the idea is that Yitro understood the idea of justice. So what was missing in Yitro's life that made him, that he was not a Noahide prior to meeting Moses? The idea that there's one God. I think up until this point, Yitro probably was thinking, well, there are many different deities, many different concepts and ideas to follow and to understand. But clearly, Yitro needed to understand that there is only one creator of the universe. So why am I saying all of this? I said this because Yitro is a prime example of what many people in the nations are today. They're probably good people. They follow the Noahide laws unintentionally. They don't know. They're just people. They're kind people. They don't treat animals with disrespect. Yet they are missing a key component, and that is the unity of God, that there is only one master of the universe, and that we as humans need to understand that. And why do we need to understand that? Is because to not understand that is to risk being assuaged by the confusion and doubt that comes from many different theological ideas that come out of human philosophy and not out of the Torah itself. So that concludes my presentation. Let's get into the discussion of the text.